Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about what did Keir Starmer actually achieve by making this trip to China. So without further ado, let's get in. Keir Starmer has currently wound up his Chinese holiday. And the reason I say holiday is because when you look at what was actually achieved by this so-called realignment with Beijing, it's, in terms of geopolitics, it's actually a joke. One of the takeaways from this meeting with Xi Jinping is that visas for UK travelers to China have now been scrapped. Now, apparently, that's really huge. However, I fail to understand the enormity of it, because unless you're a vacationer or some businessman trying to go and get a deal done in China, then in that case, I suppose it makes sense to you. But if you look at the strategic effect of it, what it's meant to actually do for the country, I don't understand, because there are far
Possible
more
deal on
pressing issues
services.
that need to be addressed rather than visa issues.
By the time the Prime Minister reached the Forbidden City just across Tiananmen Square, he was able to announce visa-free travel for Brits visiting China.
Another significant win the government is touting from this meeting with the Chinese is that there's a reduction on whiskey tariffs. So apparently the Chinese import some British whiskey, and the tariffs have now been reduced significantly. Again, China is the second most populous country in the world. So unless you have a population that is full of British whiskey drinking people, then I don't think it's going to provide much for us.
By the time the Prime Minister reached the Forbidden City just across Tiananmen Square, he was able to announce lower tariffs on whiskey.
These all seem to be little gestures of symbolism. We know that there are pressing issues that need to be discussed in the defense realm, in espionage, regarding the theft of intellectual property, the rumors doing the rounds that the Chinese government is subsidizing the electric vehicle market and flooding Europe and the UK with these cars, posing a huge threat to our own vehicle manufacturing industry. These things don't seem to be tackled. Rather whiskey going into China, visa free, is that what we've been reduced to? The reality of what actually affects us, we're not concerned with. Another broadly defined win for the government is security cooperation. Now, this is hilarious, because up until recently, as recent as December, there were concerns coming out from certain sections of government that the massive Chinese embassy to be, the proposed plans for the opening of that embassy in London were put on hold because of concerns coming out from certain sections of government regarding espionage, and mainly that the embassy would be used as a base for the Chinese intelligentsia conducting espionage operations within the UK. Needless to say, January 20th, 2026, around there, the deal was approved. So when you look at that in the grander scale of what was happening around that time, Trump's tariffs, threats, and, military action in Greenland, things like that, it's more understandable why at that point the embassy plans were approved by the UK government. I could go on, but it's actually depressing. So let's look at what I think really was the purpose of this visit by Starmer to Beijing. Because, when you look at, it's the first time in 8 years that a British Prime Minister has been to China. You look at all the posturing in the last 8 to 10 years regarding China. China's a security threat, it's an espionage threat. The Chinese are stealing intellectual property. They've been maligned and demonized in the public in the West. And, the British government has also played a role in that. Now, for our Prime Minister to make this trip at a time not only when he's going from a position of strength, but when he's going in from a position of unimaginable weakness. His ratings within the British public have tanked. His ally, the United States, has basically, threatened like a mafia don, imposing his will on his subordinates and on his adversaries. So Keir Starmer hasn't got any skin in the game. He's walking into Beijing basically with his hat in hand begging. And that is evident from the way in which the meetings proceeded. If you listen to what the tone that Xi Jinping used, the choice of words he used when they sat down for that very first meeting, it was almost like lecturing to him. And, Xi Jinping didn't hold back. He made mention of the fact that, relations between Britain and China have been strained. It's been the first visit of a British Prime Minister in the last 8 years. So he's clearly pointing out, the elephant in the room.
Well, let's start. Prime Minister Starmer, welcome to China. This is the third time that we engage with each other. It is also the first visit by the British Prime Minister after 8 years. In previous years, China-UK relations went through some twists and turns. It did not serve the interests of our two countries. Right now, the world is both fluid and turbulent.
So I believe that Starmer had to make this humiliating trip to Beijing because he's out of options. The EU have signed this mega deal with India. The UK is no longer a part of Europe per se. So they've got to navigate a lot of things on their own. It's now a competition between the UK, the EU, the special relationship that apparently we once shared with the Americans. That's now in the bin. So what options does he have? This is akin to when the Ukraine war started and Biden actually went begging to Maduro to help with the oil. It's the same scenario. Me personally, I feel this is a bigger win for China because optically, it is massive. It's a massive win for the Chinese optically because they're basically saying to the world, you've been let down by your big brother, your guarantor of peace and safety and security, the United States. Now, you need us. So, the ball is definitely in their court. They definitely hold the cards. I just want to say, Britain was once a proud country. We were Great Britain. And to find our Prime Minister behaving in this way, for me, it's shameful. It's shameful. It's embarrassing. And whatever little self-respect we had, or we thought we had on the world stage, this man has helped erode. I believe that we need to reset our path because we are in a position to become a formidable force on the world stage. However, we need somebody to lead this country with a pair of balls. Somebody who is prepared to go out there and stand up for Britain, what it stands for, our values, and that begins by us changing the dynamic that we have at home. We need to clean out the mess that we have created within our own societies and our own political system. And then, once that is done, we can project outwards. Because projecting outwards, while we are laughing stock of the world at present with what's going on within our country, it's an emperor's new clothes situation. We're walking out there and only fooling ourselves. We're deluding ourselves into the mindset that we are this powerful nation, that America has really humbled us on the world stage. It's kneecapped us and said to us and the rest of the world, look at what these people have become. So I think it's time we had some introspection and some change within the country, which will then embolden us to become a more formidable force on the world stage. Thank you for joining us on this little monologue, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps the channel to grow.